I suppose that nobody really wants to waste their time, little less even so if you've got very little to do. But, often when you're fishing around for things to do in order to make your life a bit more productive, it's not very clear what you can do in order to become a more productive and more interested person in the world around you. I've got two suggestions for you, which I hope you'll find very practical, as well as something which might actually make a big change in the way in which you become productive yourself. The first one is something which I picked up only really through lockdown, and that was because I saved so much time not commuting. I discovered that I could use that time, if I still got up at the same time, not just lay around in bed. I'd use that extra hour or so in order to read. And I decided a programmed set of reading would be very useful here. So I would first recommend to anyone who wants to make more use of the time and take responsibility for your own learning to set up a daily reading slot. I would suggest an hour. I've been reading all kinds of books which I've never read before and always planned to read. It's amazing how much you can get through if you just put aside 1 hour a day. I happen to do this because I get up fairly early in the morning, and what I tend to do then is I'll have a cup of tea, and I'll sit down and read something, and I'll sometimes make even some notes from the books as I read. Have a notebook, read a chapter or so, and then make some notes about what you've read. Of course, the important thing is to choose books which are going to help you. Well, it can help you on many different levels. Even novels can help you to learn to express yourself very well. But think of all those classic books which you've never read before, things which might even start way back in the mists of time, like the Iliad of Homer, or the Confessions of St. Augustine, or maybe Geoffrey Chaucer, or maybe something on philosophy, maybe Schopenhauer, or even Karl Marx, or even Karl Popper. Think of the massive range of books which are available to you. You have all of literature, you have all of poetry, you have all of the greatest works of literature and any book which have been written. It's all available to you free of charge these days. You just go on the internet, you can download it, you can put it on a Kindle or something of that nature, and guess what? You've got access to the greatest thoughts and the greatest works of literature which have ever been produced in the history of the world, and they're all at your fingertips. All you need is a disciplined approach to it. Take yourself 1 hour a day and sit down and read it. And read it, program your reading in a way which enables you to systematically go through the best books which have ever been written. Choose the classics, choose the very best. They're at your disposal. You can choose Dostoevsky, you can choose Tolstoy, you can choose anything, the literature from the 18th century or the 17th century. You can choose literature which is even earlier than that. You can choose the greatest books which have been written. You can choose science. You can choose philosophy. You can choose history. All up to you. It's all there. Gibbon's Decline and Fall. Macaulay's History of England. Other histories too. The great Eastern works. The Tao Te Ching. Or the works of Confucius. It's all available to you. Just make use of it. All you have to do is set aside 1 hour a day, and you'll be astonished how, within a short space of a few months, how many books you've managed to read. And what's more, if you make notes of it, that information that you learn, that becomes yours. You become a master of a new subject, a new area, a new topic, a field which you didn't know much about, and which you can now talk to others about too. And you've found your life enriched by it. But there's a second thing that you can do too. That's all about taking information in. But you can also become creative and productive too. If you have the time, I would recommend a second branch of becoming productive. And that is spend 1 hour a day writing. Again, it doesn't really matter what you write, as long as it comes from you. But you could set aside a deliberate amount of time each day, every day. Maybe it's after you've done some reading. Maybe it's later on in the day. It's up to you. But set aside the time, 1 hour per day, and start writing. You might think, well, I don't write terribly well. Doesn't really matter, because as you progress through your writing, you'll get better. Most people don't write very well anyway. But the more that you read and the more that you write, the better you'll get at expressing yourself and being a good communicator. But more than that, you can write anything you like. You could start that novel, which you've never really started, and you wonder whether you're going to finish it. Most people who start writing novels, and there are many others who seem to have got a novel in them, then they never finish the novel simply because they don't keep at it in a systematic way. But you put down an hour a day, and you'll be surprised at how much you end up writing after just 3 or 4 months. It can be quite considerable. You might have a novel already there. But it may not be novels that interest you. Maybe you want to write a scientific paper. Maybe you want to write a journal article. Maybe you just want to write a blog of some kind. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you. You choose the form of writing that you're most interested in. Maybe you want to write a philosophical essay. Maybe you want to write a political punditry journal article of some kind. Maybe you might even send them in once you've been pleased with something that you've written to some journal itself and see if they'll publish it for you. That doesn't matter though either. It's the actual act of sitting down and writing and producing something. Because after, as I say, 3 or 4 months or after a year, you can look back and you can see, look, I've got a whole body of work here which I've produced. This is something which now exists independently of me, and I'm the creator of it. And suddenly you have become productive. Suddenly you've gained not just some writing, but you've gained a voice as well. You've also been able to hone your own skills. Your writing skills when you first started were clumsy and a bit brutal, but now they're sophisticated and sharp. Now you can marshal your ideas much more clearly. And what's more, you've got a whole set of ideas to start writing about too. Why? Because you've been reading too. People often tell me that I don't really know what to write about. I haven't got any clues. But the solution to that, I always say, is very simple. Just start reading. If you don't know what to write about or what to say or what to communicate to others because you haven't got a voice of your own, then all that means is one thing. You just haven't read enough. Read and write are, I'm putting some time aside to do that, are two of the simplest and most important things that you can do in order to become a productive person. And you know what? It won't be long before you look back, say over a year of reading and writing, to say, I've learned so much. I didn't understand that I could do so easily. And I produce so much as well. And all it takes is an hour a day.